Important holiday PSA. Do not sleep on Old Navy's Jingle Jammies. From iconic plaids to candy cane stripes to merry elves, Old Navy has every festive pajama print for the fam at prices that would make even Santa jealous. Want to match everyone in buffalo checks, even your dog? Go for it. Sorry, not sorry. But these PJs sell out fast, so pop by an Old Navy store or visit oldnavy.com.
Buckeye Health Plan Medicaid is built around you, offering medical, dental, and vision benefits with no copay. Members get free rides to healthcare visits, pharmacies, and social services. Buckeye rewards you for making healthy choices. You can earn $75 in rewards for well checks. Pregnant moms can earn up to $350 in rewards for taking steps to have a healthy baby. Visit ChooseBuckeye.com for Medicaid built around you.
It didn't listen to me. It walked out of the thicket. It turned around and looked at me.
They looked up, and in this tree, there was a monkey man. And the monkey man jumped down out of the tree and started running away.
And suddenly, they're right in front of the car. He slams on the brakes and manages to stop, and he's skidding because it's like quite, gravelly. And literally for about a second and a half, they just stood there because they don't know where to go, and you tell them panicking. They're like with nothing, and their face is like twitching.
Welcome back to Bigfoot Society, a podcast where we focus on cryptids, the strange, and the unexplained of this world. If you've got a story or something weird to share, send an email over to me at bigfootsociety@gmail.com. And if you'd like to support this show, head on over to patreon.com/the Bigfoot Society. And now, on with the show. All right, Bigfoot Society, I have the privilege of talking to a new friend, Mr. Michael Montoya. How are you doing today, Michael?
Hey, I'm doing well. How's it going, Jeremiah?
Doing great here in the Midwest, Central Iowa. We're having a good day. Can't complain about it. I've been wanting to talk to you for quite a while, Michael, ever since I saw you involved with I believe it was the last season of Expedition Bigfoot. That was some pretty cool stuff you were involved with. We'll talk about that later for sure. I just want to do a quick background about you. You are the artist behind the channel on Instagram and YouTube, The Drawings of Bigfoot. People, if they've seen a pencil sketch drawing of Bigfoot, that is probably the one that you've done. Your stuff is very popular. It's all over the place. I know a lot of people have seen it on Instagram. And it says the info you provided, you've also begun working with witnesses in 2019 to create composite sketches of creatures they encountered in the woods and desert. So I'm very interested in that. But is there anything else that you would want to have the listeners know before we start chatting about stuff?
Yeah, a little bit about my background. One thing that was it was misconstrued somehow on Expedition Bigfoot was that I am a forensic sketch artist.
Okay.
I am not a forensic sketch artist. A forensic sketch artist, there's a very specific education. There's a whole thing that goes along with it. That's not my background. My background is quite different, actually. I was a tattoo artist up until the pandemic hit. But I apprenticed under a tattooer by the name of Felix. I mean, his brother, is an animator for Disney, and he just comes from a whole lineage of animators. And so when I started to apprentice under him, before we got to do any tattoo stuff, it was a very extensive education on he would train us as essentially like animators first. So we would have to understand proportions, weight and weight distribution and things of this sort. He would have us do things like study the skeletal structure and then the muscular structure of different animals, lions, of alligators, different lizards and things like that. He'd tell us to create our own animal, and then he would look at the claws on this thing, look like it would be a predator for hunting, this kind of thing, and look at the mouth on this, look at this tail would not support this aesthetically, and he would just break us down on all this stuff. So aesthetically, all had to make a lot of sense. We would have to study skeletal structures. He had these different skulls that there were replicas of 4 different human skulls, replicas, not real, of course. And one was African, one was Asian, and there was there were like a few different ethnicities, and you see the difference in the skeletal structure. I mean, we really had to have an extensive education on it, and then with muscular structure and with all this and that. So I just like a lot of us here, the rest of the Bigfoot world, once Bigfoot podcast started to hit YouTube and the internet, I mean, that was just gold, because now you could hear people's stories long form with the dignity that they deserve. It's not like it's not like catching a quick little 3-minute clip that's edited down, on TV on Unsolved Mysteries or something like that, or In Search of, or one of those shows back in the days. We're able to hear it unfiltered. And I think that was a game changer. I think that was a huge game changer for, the community. That's my uneducated opinion. But once that happened, I kept hearing people describing these creatures, and their descriptions were so vivid. And I just would start drawing these things all the time, because I was thinking, what would that look like? Oh my God, they're talking about this kind of thing. That would be this, when I started hearing about the sagittal crest, there's witnesses that have talked, not always, but there are witnesses who have said that they have seen a sagittal crest, which is a prominent bone in the forehead area of like, let's say, an ape that's there to support a strong bite mass. So I would just start drawing these things out, and before you know it, I started joining some people who I heard talking on some of the podcasts, and I just started messaging them. I'd say, you know what, I would love to work with you. I'd go to you. I'd love to, I'd love to draw a picture of what you saw. And they said yes. And at that point, I started doing a bunch of research on forensic sketch art, on composite drawing, on the method. And I learned that a good chunk of the school is kind of what I talked about. It's learning about, skeletons, skeletal structures, weight, all these different components. And so I'm thinking, well, I'm not trying to find somebody's missing kid here. And the big thing was asking the questions. That's the big thing. You really, when I'm drawing a picture of Bigfoot and I want to be creative, that's one thing. But when you're working with a witness, it's something completely different. You're not using any, you try really hard not to use any sense of creativity at all whatsoever, none. You try not to connect dots that aren't connected, and it's just about listening and trying to, not using any, leading questions. It's just a whole lot of, what could you tell me about this? What could you tell me about this? What could you tell me about this? And going down the line. And so through that, within the first year, I got a pretty good little process down. That, and I just who have been doing this kind of work, been doing composite sketches with witnesses for quite some time. I spoke with a woman named Alex Evans, who's awesome. And I listened to a lot of different interviews. I listened to an interview with a woman by the name of Sibylla Christine Irwin.
Oh, yeah.
Who's also
down in Texas, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
Her work is incredible, but when I heard her interview, her approach was really amazing as well too. So yeah, and through that, I just kind of got lost in this world, just reading with people who have seen these kind of creatures. I've just been doing it for the past few years.
That is a really fantastic story, and I kind of like it a little bit better than the whole forensic artist thing. Like it's really cool that you were an apprentice as a tattoo and just like all the stuff you really had to look into, the muscles, the skeleton. It's a very, very cool story. Have you had I'm sure you've talked to hundreds of witnesses over the years about their Bigfoot stuff and drawn different things. Is there maybe some that stick out in your mind that you've been able to talk to them and then sketch what they saw?
Yeah, once you stick to the process, it's pretty straightforward. It's effective. When I first started working with witnesses, we would use tons of references. They would find eyes that kind of look similar. They would find 3 different pictures of a mouth, and they'd say the center point of the mouth kind of looked like this one here, but see the way that this mouth here, how little these lips are, it was like these lips with that point, but it was making this face that this person over here is making.
Oh, wow.
And then I would kind of merge those together, But the more I kind of found, once that the process, I just really honed into that, we just kind of needed less and less, reference work, unless it's really to tie up some tight details. I mean, we get people who have gotten really, really good details. I mean, I worked with a kid who saw one that was about maybe 10 feet away from her, just walked right, 2 of them walked right in front of her.
Oh man.
And she could see the eyes. Their eyes were straight black, and she could see them moving around, like they were looking around, but it didn't look. The only reason why she could see that is because she could see the little muscles around the eyes moving, twitching. The witness, it's a deep, dark rabbit hole, this whole thing.
I know. It really is the whole deal. So, for example, there's a question that I'm thinking of that came just out of what you were saying. So you mentioned the eyes were just all black. Are you talking about how you see maybe pictures of black-eyed kids and it's just black eyes all the way across, or the pupils, or can you elaborate on that?
This one in particular, when she described it, she said that it looked like the Raver kid black lenses. If that makes any sense.
Okay, yeah, I think I get the idea there.
So it was the full eyeball that was.
That's exactly what I meant.
Black.
Yep. Oh boy.
Yeah. But I've worked with people who have seen whites, or if not gray, more of a grayish tone around, and then they could see a bigger, the pupils bigger, but it's a little harder to make out the pupil. And I've talked to a few people who said that the eyes, they had normal looking eyes as far as the pupil to the white ratio that we are used to as people, but that's very rare, at least with me, with who I've worked with.
Over the years, you talk to people and you write down you construct what they've seen, right? Have you found that there's always, once a person brings out a certain physical aspect about the Bigfoot, is there something that once you hear them say a certain thing about how it looked, you feel that the eyewitness is more legitimate, or does it kind of differ from story to story?
It differs from story to story, but there are little triggers that you hear. One thing that was really interesting about him is I Actually, it was the same kid that I was talking to you about, that was talking about the creature having the raver kid eyes, the black eyes. That kid also said that there was a one that was presumably, she assumed it was a mother, and then a younger one behind it walking. And she said the younger one had peach fuzz all over its face. Oh. And that both of them, that she could see ears, they had ears, but that the two that she saw, I don't know if it was the two or if it was the one, but I'd have to look at my notes, but had peach fuzz on its ears. Talked about the peach fuzz on its ears and how it was sticking up. And it would kind of stick up and out. I remember I was trying to draw it and I wasn't getting it right. And she actually took the pencil out of my hand and goes, no, like this, and started doing it. And when Rob Johnson was describing the creature, he also described the ears having peach fuzz on it, and it stuck up. That made it. He said it made its ears look like Mr. Spock almost because of the fuzz, the peach fuzz on his ears. And I think there was one other one. There's three. There's another one that I remember, but there's like those kind of things where they say something and you're like, that's something I've heard a few times that I don't hear a lot on shows or on this or on that, and there's definitely little things. And I've worked with people too where it just, what they're talking about, I mean, it's, it sounds very out there, and I'm like, I don't know what to do with any of this.
Those big wireless companies try to lure you in with a new phone just to lock you into a contract. Not Simple Mobile. If you have a great smartphone you love, you can get a powerful nationwide 5G network without the contract. Just text the word BYOP to 611611 to see if your phone's compatible. Simple Mobile. Out with the old, in with the simple. Message and data rates may apply. Visit simplemobile.com/privacy policy for privacy policy and the terms and conditions at simplemobile.com/terms and conditions. Compatible 5G capable device and SIM required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary. 5G network not available in all areas. 5G upload speeds not yet available.
Wingstop's doing what they do best, taking flavor to the next level. So when chicken sandwiches only came in spicy and plain, Wingstop said, nah, make it 12 flavors. Lemon pepper chicken sandwich, OG hot, mango habanero. You get the picture? Every famous Wingstop flavor. Now on the new Wingstop chicken sandwich. Try all 12 and find your favorite at Wingstop, where flavor gets its wings.
When you drive the brand ranked #1 in dependability by J.D. Power, you can stop thinking about what you can't do and start doing what you never thought possible. Visit your local Kia dealer today to see yourself behind the wheel of the brand ranked #1 in dependability by J.D. Power. Kia, movement that inspires.
Call 800-333-4KIA for details. Always drive safely. Kia received the fewest reported problems among all brands in the J.D. Power 2022 U.S. Vehicle Dependability Study based on 2019 models. See jdpower.com/awards for 2022 details.
And that's all. At that point, it's I've worked with the run of the mill.
Is there maybe an example you feel comfortable giving of something that a person said that you're like, I don't really know what to do with this?
I've worked with somebody that would say that they come into their bedrooms and that they're at the foot of their bed and that they're talking to them in their mind saying, you see me now, you see this, and, and,
wow.
But you know what? Surprisingly enough, I've only had like 2 or 3 of those, to be honest with you. That's very rare. That is a rarity to get that. I would have thought coming into this whole thing that would have been the majority. I thought that I would just start thinking like, my God, like these stories are just wackadoo, but they're not. They're the stories I often hear. They have all this weight to them, and it's the exact opposite. You talk to people who are, who work for law enforcement. Talk to people who worked for science departments at certain universities, and and who'd say like this is the only chink in the armor of science that really throws me for a loop. I don't know what to do with them. And they're certain. They're like, we saw this. It was right there. It was right in front of me. It was right there, but the scientist who does not know what to do with it. And that's seems to be a majority of the people, and it's always fun working with people, being able to, it's an honor, I should say. It's an honor to be able to work with people and to be able to kind of, to get a peek at what they saw.
That is awesome. Can you describe what's the, let's say once you have the full face put together of the Bigfoot, after the person is like, okay, more of this nose, more of these lips, what kind of reactions do you usually get from these witnesses once they're able to look into the face of the creature again that they saw?
Generally, with a lot of witnesses, especially at first when people didn't have an idea of who I was, now I get a lot of people who have seen my work and who are familiar and could look and see certain things and listen to interviews, and they have a little bit more of an idea. But before then, I would get people who were incredibly guarded, and they just are, there's a little bit of a time where you're just kind of letting them feel you out, and I'm just answering a lot of questions because they're like, okay, because these witnesses, as they're just hung out to dry. They saw this thing and they have nothing to defend themselves with in terms of their argument. It's sad. And the last thing they want is to be ridiculed.
Absolutely.
And so there's always a bit of a, time in the front end where we try to build that trust, have a phone conversation first, and then maybe schedule the drawing date a little bit later if they're still into it. It's completely up to them. I don't charge for this stuff, and it's up to them whether or not I share it. Some people say go for it, share it, and others just want to keep it for themselves, in which case I just have my own personal little library for me to learn and for me to study.
That's amazing.
So once they open up, and when we are drawing and when we're getting closer, you can start seeing they go from being a drill instructor to more of this, more of this, more of this. And you start showing them, and their body language starts changing, and they start breaking down like, oh my God. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. So maybe, and then you just keep going and going. And then, at a certain point, they just, you could see like a release. Some people get emotional.
Oh man.
It's got to be, it's got to be intense for some people.
Oh, that's especially, some of these stories, they're very intense. I can't imagine, some of these people being taken back to that time where they saw a creature. Now they're able to look at its face again for an extended period of time and not just, 5-10 seconds maximum.
I'll share a quick story with you on that subject. The guy I worked with on Expedition Bigfoot, one moment that will always stick with me. And these are the little moments, these human moments. These are the things that really, truly stick with me. And when I'm an old man and I think back about, this experience, it'll probably be this little moment here, which is, I'm working it up to probably sound way more than what it is, but we got to this hotel guests, there's a whole COVID protocol production and all that stuff. Right. So we got the cubes, the little Q-tips up our nostrils, and it was just me and him just leaning back against a wall, just chilling in this long hallway. And it's at a hotel, and there's nobody around. It's just us. There's just us two. We're waiting for the test to come through. And, we're just kind of talking quietly to each other, and he's, talking about, his experience a little bit. And he said, yeah. And he was talking about when he was with his dad and they were hunting. This is in Washington. And as they were hiking over this ridge, there was a creature that came up on the other side of the ridge towards them. They see each other, And this was the creature that I had drawn for him. But he was talking a little bit about it, just very casually too. And then he just started thinking about it. And I think I asked him about his dad, and he said his dad doesn't like to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And he just kind of started talking. Then he just started going, and he said, I thought, and he kind of stopped. He goes, I thought we were going to die. And he just kind of stopped.
Wow.
And he was just in this daze. And about 3 or 4 times under his breath with that, and he just kept going, I thought we were going to die. Like, I thought we were going to die. Yeah, I thought we were going to. And then he just kind of snapped out of it and shook his head and was like, yeah, so, yeah, man. And just kind of went on with the story. But there are those little moments, and even the 10, 11, I can't remember if she was 10 or 11 when I worked with her. The kid I worked with that I keep talking about, even her, there's always those moments where when people are recounting their story or recounting the way it looked at them, and they just kind of stop and they have to just kind of take a second. You know what I mean? Oh, those are the moments that really creep up on me, you know?
Oh, I bet you've heard some wild things over the years for sure. Have you ever had have you wanted to yourself, or have you ever, gone out looking for Bigfoot yourself, or?
I haven't gone out looking per se, but then again, people like us, whenever we are in the woods, even if we're just driving through, are we ever not looking? You know what I mean? It's like we go for a hike anywhere, and even if it's like a populated area, you tend to look at the ground for tracks just because it's just programmed in you, you know? But no, I haven't gone out, squatching per se. and I haven't done anything like that. All of my, I guess you could say, research is by way of witnesses, working with witnesses. I'm not a researcher, obviously. Because I want to learn. I'm not somebody who wants to prove these creatures exist. So, I don't make a whole lot of time to get out into the woods to find tracks, find evidence, find this, find that. I'd love to, but it just hasn't really quite happened yet.
Do you ever have people contacting you saying anything like, hey, that picture you just released, I just want to let you know that's exactly what I saw too? Do you ever get emails like that?
Yeah, I get quite a bit of those.
Oh, wow.
I get quite a bit of those. And more often than not, it's not exactly, they'll say, and, around this area, there, it's where people talk about different, skinwalkers and all these different types of things. But at the same time, I have met people who say they have seen Sasquatch-like creatures out in the desert. I'll have to tell you about that, but yeah, I've worked with people who say I didn't see Bigfoot, but I saw this thing that looked like this giant rabbit, almost like this big bald rabbit that
really
was hunched over, and it was in all this. And so, yeah, but very few of those. Most of what I get are Bigfoot.
A big bald rabbit.
These big ears, and it was hunched over. And it said that, the spine was like a big upside down U shape. And it was, if he had I think he had a Honda, he said when he went by it, it was almost to the top of his hood. Like it was really, really big.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I didn't think much of that. I was just like, well, that's different. And there's these two guys. I think in northern Arizona, they have the Navajo Rangers out there.
Sure.
Which on the the indigenous reservations out there, the Navajo Rangers, they put together their own federal task force and a certain unit specifically for these kind of calls, supernatural calls, Bigfoot calls, all these different types of things.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah, look them up, the Navajo Rangers.
Oh my goodness, I didn't know about this. This is wild.
Yeah, this is a federal. It's incredible. I was listening to these two guys talk, and they talk about this rabbit thing, and my mind blew. Because again, I thought, well, maybe this is just one of these wackadoo stories that I'm getting, and who knows. But yeah,
that is really interesting. I'm gonna definitely look more into that. Have you anything like, people describing creatures like humanoid crawlers or like the rake or anything weird like that as well?
No, nothing like that.
That's good.
No. Yeah. Not yet anyways.
That's good. That would weird me out a little bit, but I'm sure they're out there. They might be contacting you. How do people get in touch with you, Michael?
You can email me at thedrawingsofbigfoot@gmail.com. I'm also on Instagram, thedrawingsofbigfoot. You could message me on there as well too.
That's awesome. This has been a super fun chat with you, talking about, what your whole story, what really happens. Invitation for people to contact you to tell you about their encounter and maybe get a session set up, or how do you deal with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, feel free. Just shoot me a message or an email, and give me a little description of your encounter, and we'll talk.
That's fascinating. In the last few minutes, is there anything else you want to make sure that people know, that they can keep up to date with what you're doing and follow things that you're putting out?
That is mostly there's a project that I started doing a couple of years back here, and I had to put it aside for a little bit. But it looks like it's something I'm going to be picking up here again. And it involves elaborating on this process that I do. I've done a couple of animated shorts. I'm not sure if you've seen those. So on YouTube, if you guys out there listening, if you go to youtube.com and just type in the drawings of Bigfoot,
okay.
I have a YouTube channel there. And I have worked with a couple witnesses and who have talked me through their whole experience, not just the creature, but geographically, the whole nine. And I have put together these shorts that are these animated reenactments, the witnesses. I'm going to be doing a lot more of that stuff. So if there's anybody out there that has, who's had an intense account that you'd like to see in that way, look it up and see if it would be your cup of tea. I'm going to be doing some more of those here as well.
Yes, definitely. I'll definitely have all that information in the show notes for this episode. But thank you so much for coming on, Michael. This has been a fun chat, and maybe we'll be checking in with you in a year or so to see how things are working out with your project.
Yeah, man, that sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Bigfoot Society. If you like the show, please review and rate it 5 stars on iTunes. Hit the share button and send this episode to all your friends on social media. Subscribe to Bigfoot Society wherever you listen to podcasts. It doesn't cost a thing. Pick up a Bigfoot Society shirt or enamel pin over on our Etsy page, and people will tell you all about their Bigfoot sightings when you wear it. At least that's what people tell us. That's what happens. If you'd like to become an official member of Bigfoot Society with a membership card, a community of like-minded individuals, and extra content each month, then please consider becoming a supporter of the podcast by going to www.patreon.com/The Bigfoot Society. Thanks for listening.
When you drive the brand ranked #1 in dependability by J.D. Power, you can stop thinking about what you can't do and start doing what you never thought possible. Visit your local Kia dealer today to see yourself behind the wheel of the brand ranked #1 in dependability by J.D. Power. Kia. Movement that inspires.
Call 800-333-4KIA for details. Always drive safely. Kia received the fewest reported problems among all brands in the J.D. Power 2022 U.S. Vehicle Dependability Study based on 2019 models. See jdpower.com/awards for 2022 details.
Hey everybody, I'm Ian.
And I'm Mike, and we're the hosts of In the Scenes Behind Plain Sight, a rewatch podcast for a TV show you may have forgotten.
Or maybe it never existed.
We'll rewatch all 5 seasons, episode by episode, and we hope you'll join us. Or maybe we never existed.
This'll all make sense, or maybe it won't. when you listen to In the Scenes Behind Plain Sight, wherever you get your podcasts.